Alright, I'm trying to keep you guys up to date with what I'm doing here. Got an awesome workbench, just sitting on the ground. I have no room. I could try to clear this off, but then you can't get underneath it. Like, I don't know. I just have. And the thing is, I'm not really a hoarder. Like, all this stuff actually has a place. It's just I don't have the room. But anyways, I want to give you guys an update on the heads. Now, let me give you a backstory about these heads. These are the Elderbrock Magnum, aluminum heads. And I bought these. I traded my great uncle a set of Jegs Magnum heads. They were some new castings, but they weren't the Engine Quest ones. They were like a Chinese repop. And he had these heads for 5 or 6 years because he's actually the owner of Hunter's Demon. And he never, got to putting them on the Demon before he sold it to Hunter. So he just had them sitting around. And he does dirt track stuff and has, a lot of second gen Dodge trucks. So needless to say, he had these heads. We did some bartering. I got the heads. I put them on and ran them. Anyways, I'm a sportsman racer, so meaning I bracket race, but at the same time, I have the need for speed too. So what I ended up doing was shipping these heads out, and I'm not going to mention the company I sent them to because they're not worth mentioning, and I'm not really going to, I'm going to run them down, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to mention their name because it is what it is. But anyway, ship these heads out to have them CNC ported with a 208 intake valve. He told me, they'd flow over 300 CFM at 600 inch lift and all this shit. Well, he had them for about 4 months. At one point, I thought I wasn't even going to get them back. He shipped them back to me. It was like almost $1,900 later. Didn't give me a flow sheet, nothing. And I put them back on the car. Didn't pick up a single hundredth. Now, it was a different time of the year, so if it was going to pick up, this was like I shipped them out beginning of summer. This was like late summer, beginning of fall when I got them back. The car did not pick up a single hundredth in the eighth mile, in the quarter mile, nothing. So as you might know, I was pretty devastated. And then Hunter, he got in touch with John Cadmore. Like I told you guys before, he went by Pittsburgh Racer on a lot of Moparts and A-bodies only for him. He's real close to, he used to live real close to Pittsburgh. I think Keystone was his home track. Anyways, he has dusters and shit. Hunter got in touch with him. He ported Hunter's heads. $1,000, 2055 intake valve, and look trick. So we go up there to get Hunter's heads, and I'm introduced to him. And anyways, he passed away almost a year ago, and it sucks because this dude could take an Elderbrock head, non-offset rocker, and every flow bench is a little different. That's why talking flow numbers is kind of nor here nor there type of scenario. But he had the Sunex flow bench. He could get a non-offset Elderbrock to flow 322 CFM at 600 inch. And if you compare that to a lot of these heads, like even, I'm going to say it, the Bloomer heads, he's neck and neck with them right there. So when you think about it, Hunter had about $1,800 in the heads, and he gave him $1,000, so $2,800. And he's capable of making 650 horse with these Elderbrocks, depending on the combination. But anyways, I'm no master head porter, but he told me, my heads were on the car. He showed us, told us, what he does, how he does it. And just the smallest details can make or break how good your heads flow. So not having a flow bench is a handicap for me because to this day, I still have not got these heads flowed. So I don't know if they flow 265 or 325, but they're probably right in the middle. I'm going to say at 600 inch, they might flow 280, give or take. I'm not sure. I could be underestimating them, but he showed us, what he does, what to look for, how to do it. And so it wasn't 2 days later, I pulled these son of bitches off the car and I started whittling on them myself. And when I was done with these heads, I picked up a 1/10.5 in the 1/8 mile and 2.5 tenths in the 1/4 mile. So, and that doesn't mean that I'm a great head porter because I'm far from it. But just taking his knowledge and looking at what he did to Hunter's head and applying it to what I have here, what I'm saying is anyone can do this type of stuff. And, this is why I'm scared of, machine shops and engine builders and just, no, I'm going to do it myself. And then if it's effed up, I'm not out a whole lot. Well, I could be out a whole lot of money if I got to buy a new head, but I'll take the blame. I don't like being like, this thing is shit. And then I have to blame them, like be mad at them. I'd rather be mad at myself. So, anymore, whether it be building the roll cage, painting my car, doing an alignment, setting up rear suspension, building the motor, setting up a third member, putting together a transmission, you name it, you're damn right I'm going to dabble with it because just no one's going to do it as good as you'll do it for yourself. So I'm going to show you guys basically what I've been doing here. And let's see. So here's the common wall. And this right here, this is the common wall how I was running it. And if you can see that nasty head bolt bulge. So I ran them this way when the car would go 680s, 690s in the 1/8 mile. And so I said, well, Cadmore told me like that's a nasty piece. And it's actually the shop that CNC'd them. They took it down quite a bit over stock. But, basically that, you do not want that, okay? And then I'll show you guys here on the floor. Okay, so there I got rid of most of the bulge. But on the floor, let me try to get a better view. Yeah, I don't know if you can see right where my finger would be before it goes into the bowl. That probably, well, I know it could be taken down more, but I'm way too much of a, I'm going to wuss out on that because that is where your water is. So I'm going to stop and call that good. But I did get rid of that bulge, and I will show you guys from what I've seen of the trick flows, now Cadmore didn't really, go in great depth about any of this, but I'm just, I just looked at Hunter's trick flows. It does have some duck wings. I guess that's what you'd call them. I'm not sure if they did a good job on that, a bad job. I don't really know. You might even be able to still see some of their CNC marking, what they had left over. But I'm not really sure. They did put in a 208 intake valve, which is probably hurting me because I don't have some 650 lift cam. I'm thinking the valve diameter would be all an aspect of how far you shove the valve down. So I don't know if that's hurting or helping. But anyways, these are the brass sleeves that I epoxied in. And this is what I was talking about in a video before. I D-shaped them because the pushrod holes were so big that even D-shaping them, I still have over 20 thousandths till it would contact the pushrod. So that made me be able to get rid of most, if not all, of the pushrod pinch bulge. So yeah, most of it. Anyways, that's basically what I'm doing, is just cleaning these up a little bit more. They also, I don't know, let's see, I hope you guys can see this. The guide, thought about trimming it down, but you don't really want to do that because that actually helps the valve stay stable, and it also cools off the valve. So I just left the guide, but as you see, they didn't even touch the guide. So on this head, I actually tried to make it. Cadmore told me the guide, if you can get it to look like a arrow tip. So I'm trying to give it like a funnel tip to it, unlike what they did. So, anyways, yeah, that's about it. Oh yeah, and then the common wall bulge right there, it's sleeve too. That's a 17/32 brass sleeve. And if you can see, I'm gonna flip it back up. If you can see, one sec. You can see here. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, but I burnt through one tiny little spot there. And that's epoxied in there. And what's nice about that is you can whittle on these until you start, it'll basically chunk off like a little piece of potato chip. And then you'll know that's basically all she wrote. So, yeah, these heads, I've had them 7 or 8 years now. They've went through 3 or 4 transformations. They're all but probably wore out, to be honest with you guys. I just don't have money for new heads. I think when I do get a new set, I probably will go with the Trick Flow myself. I don't know. I guess we'll see how these perform. If they perform, pretty well, I might just get another set of Elderbrocks and duplicate them. Because let me show you another thing on the Elderbrock Magnums. And I know a lot of you guys that watch my channel either don't like Magnums or, don't own a Magnum. But anyways, they use a small block Chevy rocker. And trust me, I was not super thrilled about that, but turns out it works pretty good. And actually, I don't know why Elderbrock did it, if they just thought it'd be easier or cheaper, but they actually work pretty good. They use guide plates, you got to use hardened push rods, but I don't really mind them. Pretty easy to adjust a hydraulic roller. I do 0 lash and 1.5 turns because if there is one thing I'm going to bitch about these Magnums, it's like, boy, do they have noisy valve train, especially, the lifters. I've tried several different sets of lifters, like Johnson's, and I bought a set from Hughes Engines for like $500. Supposedly they were tight tolerance lifters. They were the worst lifter I've ever ran. So I do a turn and a half of preload, but if you guys ever had adjustable rockers on a hydraulic, it's pretty forgiving. Anywhere from a half a turn to 2 turns, really, it ain't gonna matter, especially if you got the spring for it. But what I wasn't accustomed to, this took me, and some of you guys might laugh, but this literally took me 2 years to figure out because I don't run a small block Chevy, and I didn't know, but you see the rocker stud, how it protrudes into the port? Yeah, well, I had the rocker studs out, and because, you actually have to have them loose to line up the guide plates to get the rocker centered on the valve stem. And this is all Chevy shit, and I was not used to it, even the real serious Chevy guys uses a shaft mount like Chrysler did from the factory. So I was not accustomed to this. But anyways, due to all their transformations, Elderbrock from the factory put a thread sealer on it. But by the time I've screwed around with it, a few years later, didn't know it. And I was burning probably 2 quarts of oil every 150 miles. Could not figure out what the fuck the problem was. Well, turns out it was actually sucking oil through that rocker stud. There's so much vacuum in this, your intake runner that, yeah, it was sucking oil. So, and that's another thing I cleaned up over here. I actually ground that down so it doesn't protrude out. I don't know. That's probably not even 1 CFM, but I'll take what I can get, guys, basically. So anyways, figured that out after numerous Chevy forums on, basically talking with rocker arms. And I can't remember exactly how I figured out that that's where all the oil was going. But needless to say, it didn't do my rings any justice. I remember driving it to North Carolina using 3 or 4 quarts of oil to get there. So the whole time, my rings and everything were just basically getting, oil soaked. So I'm not sure. But you know, after I figured that out, I don't really mind the small block Chevy rocker design. I'd rather have a shaft mount. I mean, like I said, that's kind of what Chrysler's known for. But I'll show you guys over here. Once again, I have no room. So yeah, they use a hardened push rod, and you can actually see where it's scuffed on the guide plates. Use a hardened push rod, and then I got these Comp Ultra XPs, 1:6 ratio. So I didn't skimp out like, you know, typical Chevy guy, you know, probably build his motor at Save-A-Lot or something, but I went ahead and got, you know, some nice $600-700 rockers. I've had them for a few years now, and no complaints out of them. So, anyways, that's what I'm doing. Doing it on the floor, guys. Doing it on the floor. But I have to finish this head and then get the other head in. And like I said, we're just gonna do a lap job. The exhaust. Cadmore said he didn't mess with it a whole lot. Like, he said it was a bad design, which I'm not sure what he meant by that, but he said he just kind of touches it up. He didn't do a whole lot on the exhaust, but he had some bad cars, let me tell you. He had a 408 stroker and his black 70 Duster. I think it's been like 560s. You know, not a street car, obviously, like a bracket car, but I mean, he knows what I really miss actually talking to him. Like I said, you gotta talk to people that have the knowledge type of deal, and I just kind of learn as I go. But anyways, that's the latest update. So tomorrow, Hunter's coming over, and he's got the cam bearing tool. We're gonna install some new cam bearings, and I'm going to give the block a final clean job. Like, I'm going to tap all the holes and blow it all out, and then, yeah, we'll spend about a day file fitting some rings. And like I said, I don't know, I really hope this thing's back together by towards the end of this week. That would be sweet. So I'll see you guys.